And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media. And let me repost this here. But anyway, I'm Taylor Phillips along with Ed Smith and Frank Vashner. My opening statement: that we now have 0 undefeated football teams in our state. Cade Cunningham has already warmed up. The Red Wings snapped a regulation losing streak, and now they're on a 2-game winning streak. They just beat Vegas 5-2, and the Tigers make their first off-season move. Ed, what's your opening statement?
My opening statement for this week is short, simple. For once, there's good news to abound for Lions fans this week. It was their bye, so there was no anticipation of getting your heart ripped out or your private stomped on watching the Lions week in and week out. For this week, you all got a reprieve. I can't say the same for next week.
Right. Frank, what's your opening statement?
Well, my opening statement relates to Michigan State. They suffered their first loss, but I'll get into later details as about how Mel Tucker is handling it, and it's a reason why I like him a lot. And the Iser plan is starting to slowly bear some fruit, gentlemen, in terms of the Red Wings.
Yeah. And before we begin, this show is sponsored by the Viget Sports mobile app, where great fans cover. Download it on your smartphone from the Apple App Store or Google Play. Sign up and type in the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle as in billionaire. Shout out to Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to one of their featured events. That's 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. So we got 2 Ed Smiths on here, which is okay. But let's get to it. Let's get to Michigan State. Spartans got upset by the Purdue Boilermakers 40-29 in West Lafayette. I think there was a fumble. Otherwise, it was a phantom fumble to begin the game. But other than that, the defense just fell apart. Of course, their secondary defense was bad, has been bad all season, but their defensive line could not stop the run. So, Frank, we're going to go to you first as we still wait for Ed to hop on. I think we lost him, but Frank, go right ahead.
Well, I mean, kind of a rough performance was somewhat expected, given that they're coming off a big win over Michigan where they came from behind. You expect a little bit of a hangover from that. However, and I can't really fault the offense. Yeah, I know Kenneth Walker had a fumble, and I know there was a questionable call on what could have been ruled simultaneous possession on a catch. I'll get to more of that later. But look, defensively, this is about as bad as you can play. You allowed over 500 yards passing to Aiden O'Connell from Purdue. I mean, look, defensively, you did a nice job stopping the run. But the problem is Purdue loves to air it out. O'Connell had over 500 yards passing. David Bell had a career day receiving, kind of reminiscent of Drew Brees to Chris Daniels in the late 90s. So, I mean, there's kind of some eerie similarities to that loss to Purdue in 1999 following that win over Michigan then. But, at the end of the day, hey, you can't win every game. And, of course, I do know there were some questionable calls from an officiating standpoint. But you know what Mel Tucker is doing? Not blaming it on officiating. He came out and said, hey, we didn't play well. It's as simple as that. And I say, you know what? I can't agree with you anymore, Mel. You got to be able to play better and go play well enough to win a game and make winning plays. And that said, we're on to Maryland. Got to get back on track. That's really all I can say. Not going to go blaming anything else for it. other than just didn't play well. Learn your lessons and be better next time.
Yep, and they dropped to 8th in the college football AP poll. So Ed rejoins us. A little technical difficulty, but Ed, your turn. What do you think?
Yeah, my thoughts from the standpoint on what happened with Michigan State Purdue. First, I think some credit should be given to the Spartan offense. They weren't as consistent as they were this week compared to how they were rolling on all cylinders against Michigan. Peyton Thorne could have had himself a little bit of a better game, but despite all that, they were able to manage to score 29 points. Kenneth Walker still got himself his usual amount of production, almost 150 yards and a touchdown. So, and you had guys like Reed and Hayward and Mosley being productive on the receiving side of things. So it wasn't so much the fact that the offense couldn't do what they were supposed to do. It was more so the defense. And I think you're noticing a trend, if not a pattern, of what happened here. So what happened in regards to last week, Michigan? How did they have their success? Through the air. We saw Cade McNamara have his best performance yet maybe we'll ever see out of his tenure as a Michigan player, because how he carved up the Michigan State secondary, and you saw it once again harm the Spartans' chances of winning. In fact, it was, in my view, the primary reason why they lost. Their inefficiency to stop the pass, which produced big play after big play, how Purdue was able to get their scores, get their points, and would really help put this game out of reach. And when you have to defend the pass so much, it sets up a situation where you let the running back, I think it was Doru for Purdue, I believe it was either a screen pass or a handoff, but either way, he had a big play where he ripped off a chunk play right near the end that essentially ended any chance of a comeback when Michigan State was trying to get the ball back, and that first down essentially sealed it. So that's a byproduct of your secondary getting so gashed, and when you try to defend the pass one time, you let the running back underneath you produce a big chunk play that ends the game. So there are things to look at from the standpoint of, yes, the officiating could have been better, but like as Mel Tucker came out and rightfully did, he took acknowledgments and saying, no, you got to play better as a team. You can't give up 40 points. You can't have the mistakes that Michigan State had and expect to win. You can't have the type of performance on certain parts of your defense, especially 2 weeks in a row. And this is against a Purdue team that knows its fair share of upsets, playing top 5 teams at home, knowing when to wreck their season when it matters. They just did it earlier this month. And let's not forget what they did against Ohio State years back. So this is their formula. This is how they tend to do things. So it's not really a surprise anymore for Purdue's standpoint. It is a surprise for Michigan State's standpoint, where you had the biggest win of your year of your season so far against Michigan, and you follow that up with that performance. It's disheartening. And as terms of what's going to do for them in the polls, I don't think they're going to drop too far in the college football playoff rankings. I think they'll drop at the very least, or probably no worse than 7th, when you consider the fact that all the other teams behind them, they won. So by virtue, I think they should move up a spot. You can debate on whether or not, hey, you should put MSU at 6, Michigan 7, because MSU has to head-to-head victory. But if you want to do compare and contrast, and we'll get into that in a second, the more comparison is, it's simple. Michigan, when they lost head-to-head on the road, yes, but against a ranked team by one score, unranked, unbeaten team with one score, trying to take the lead late in the game. Whereas MSU's loss, it came against unranked team with 3 losses on the season already. And not only did they lose, they lost by double digits, and they gave up 40 points in the process. So something like that, I don't think is going to look good in terms of the committee's eyes, because it is still a week by week basis, even at this point of the season, how you look in that specific game. And while Michigan didn't look perfect by any means stretch of the imagination, they still handled their business and they won. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see on the upcoming rankings on Tuesday that Michigan might be ahead of Michigan State, even if it's by one spot in terms of Michigan's at 6, MSU at 7. I could see that kind of thing happening.
Yeah, the college football playoff ranking, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find that out Tuesday night. So for the Spartans, they head to Penn State to take on the Nittany Lions Saturday at noon
Taylor,
on ABC.
That's incorrect. Michigan actually plays Penn State. Michigan State will be playing Maryland at home at 4
Hang on
o'clock.
a second. Okay, let me edit this here.
It's all good.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, they got Penn State at the end of the year because it's Maryland, then Ohio State, then Penn State at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I believe Michigan and Penn State play each other at noon on Saturday. I did see I saw a tweet from Michael Spath saying that it was a noon game.
So that's
Happy Valley.
I don't think that's going to get the. Now, do you think it's going to get the Fox treatment again? I mean,
if it's a nooner and it's a Big Ten game, I'd say 99 times out of 100 it's probably going to be on Fox, but we may have to look that up. Taylor, I don't know. You can,
yeah, because I would have thought that maybe, with Michigan's chances still up for grabs, maybe they would have gotten the Saturday night special, but I guess not.
Michigan at Penn State Saturday at noon on ABC.
Oh, ABC. Interesting. Okay.
Oh, it's
Yeah, Frank, you're losing your connection. You're going to have to move your window closer again. But yeah. But let's see here on Fox, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. There we go. So let's try to fix that. There we go. Yeah, we lost Frank. His connection. Yeah, Frank's connection's always horrible. You'll have to excuse him.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's preview Maryland at Michigan State Saturday at 4 p.m. on Fox. So, Ed, the Viget analysis and scoring predictions. You're up first, as usual. Please take it away.
Okay, no problem. In terms of Michigan State, obviously it's a bounce back game for them in the worst way. As we see Frank rejoining us, good to know. I think this is a perfect chance for MSU to take out some aggression on this Maryland team before they get themselves ready for Ohio State. This is a Maryland team that had its ups and downs. Yes, they can move the ball pretty well. They can score the ball pretty well, but they have a very leaky defense. Okay, they gave up 51 points to Iowa. They gave up 66 points to Ohio State. Even when they beat Indiana, the same Indiana team that we saw pad its way, how they performed against Michigan, they lost, but they at least put up 35. Or I should say, they gave up 35. And as we saw last week against Penn State, they gave up 31. So knowing how MSU's offense has been rolling this year, and knowing that they're going to need a bounce back in the worst way and to get themselves ready for Ohio State, I'm expecting big things out of the MSU offense. So my bigger predicted score, goes in line with what Vegas has it. I think MSU gets it done by a score of 35-17.
35-17. And we lost Frank again. I'm going to go with Michigan State 38 and Maryland 20. So Ed says 35-17 Michigan State. I'll go 38-20 Michigan State. And again, Michigan State will still have to wait for the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night. Right now, they are 8th in the AP poll rankings in college football. So, why don't we go ahead and move on while we wait for Frank? Mm-hmm. The Michigan Wolverines bounced back with a 29-7 win over the Indiana Hoosiers at the Big House, Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor. And Frank has just joined us. So, Frank, just in perfect timing, just in time. So Ed picked 35-17 Michigan State. Frank, your turn. Yeah, it's frozen again.
This is not.
You're still cutting in and out. You're still cutting in and out.
All right. Okay. Close to my window right now. So, as I was saying, Maryland has a very good quarterback in Taulia Tagovailoa, who is to his little brothers. He's more affectionately known as. And he can put up yards. He can help Maryland put up points, but Maryland gives up a ton of points, as we saw with their games against Ohio State, and other opponents as well. So, really, I think Michigan State, they're going to lean on Kenneth Walker III. I think he's going to be in for another big game. I'll say Michigan State wins this one 38-14. Means they take some frustration out. Wouldn't surprise me if it's even more. I think Vegas has them as at least a 2-touchdown favorite. So I'm thinking at least that much of a margin of victory for the Spartans.
All right. 38-14. Michigan State, says Frank. Like I said before, I'll take Michigan State 38 and Penn State or Maryland 20. So Michigan beats the Indiana Hoosiers 29-7 at Michigan Stadium, the big house. The Wolverines bounce back with that victory, and they stay at 9th in the college football AP poll rankings. So as I was saying, Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, the offense sputtered, but the defense really buckled down against those 2-win Hoosiers.
The defense did what they were supposed to do. Yes, if you're watching for any developments of the offense, there are things that can be concerning. But I think it's a matter at this point taking what the defense gives you, and knowing how well to adjust with the right game plan and how to execute said game plan. I think what they did against Michigan State was a prime example of how they were able to react to what was presented to them and the situation ahead of them, and they excelled at it, to a point where, had it not been for unfortunate decisions in regards to J.J. McCarthy holding the football, you arguably should have won that game. So knowing that they were able to carry that into this week of how, okay, the passing game has not been what we wanted to have happen so much compared to last week, but we can still run it down their throat. That's what happened. That's what we saw. And while there were some things you wish could have seen better from Cade McNamara, he still, in my view, did his job well. He didn't put the team in any position he didn't have any, to where they could be trailing or losing. Didn't have any type of careless error or mistake. I think J.J. McCarthy needs to get his confidence back. There were a couple of snaps, couple of plays he still looked shaky from a standpoint of okay, he last week shook him up. In terms from a morale and mental standpoint, you hope that doesn't lag and affect him for the remainder of the season, because there's going to be times where he will be needed and called upon again to handle that ball. So if he can block that mentally, I think it'll be fine for him. Now, as for the game itself, from what we did see, what I did like, it was nice seeing Cornelius Johnson produce, getting 106 yards, 108 yards of receptions. With the unfortunate injury of Blake Corum, with him going down, and frankly, the injury bug happened to hit the Wolverines. It took a real convenient time to hit them, but not just Corum, but you lost Jamon Green, Andrew Anthony, which really hurts because he became a real certifiable threat in the receiving game last week against Michigan State. So to have him go out here sucks tremendously, and could be detrimental to how you want the offense to perform late in the season coming up here. So despite all that, they were able to ride their defense, and I think their defense wanted to have its own proving point to themselves, because that was their worst performance last week by a country mile in quite a while. So they wanted to prove themselves worthwhile again this week. They did that. Granted, it's Indiana, but this is the same Hoosiers team that has given Michigan fits year after year in the Harbaugh era. So to see them contain and control them for once was quite satisfying to see, even if you wished for a little bit more better production and performance from the offense. But still, a win is a win. This was needed. This is your bounce back. Now you move on to the next phase of games, which will effectively decide your season with Penn State coming up.
All right. So, absolutely. All right. So, definitely, the defense is the name of the game. Frank, your turn. Frank, you're muted.
Kind of what Ed was alluding to. This is a nice bounce back for Michigan's defense, holding Indiana to only 7 points now. As you mentioned, the injuries to Andrell Anthony and Blake Corum are a really big concern. I don't know how long either's going to be out for, or because Michigan's obviously going to need those guys back before the end of the year when they play Ohio State. So only time will tell as to how well they can perform. I still wish that this whole quarterback derby of shuffling J.J. McCarthy in mid-series just for a couple plays and bringing him back out. This is getting, I think Ed will agree with me when I say this. If Cade's playing well, keep him in the game. There's no need to pull him out unless you really think he's chopped liver. So that said, and Michigan came out, they, in the words of Bachman Turner Overdrive, they were taking care of business against Indiana. They move on the season, and we'll see what happens when they face Penn State, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about next.
Yep. And let's get to those. Oh, wait, Michigan at Penn State. Let me edit this. Michigan with a bounce back win over the Indiana Hoosiers. (29-7). All right. So there we go. The Michigan Wolverines at the Penn State Nittany Lions Saturday at noon on ADC p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll have to mute Frank here because we're starting with Ed first, and then we're going to go to Frank. Ed, what are your Vigan analysis and scoring prediction?
All right, looking at this game, it is quite frankly their most important game left outside of Ohio State. Not just in terms of knowing that you're back in the Big Ten East race, because let's not forget, you needed Michigan State to lose twice to even give yourself a chance at winning the division. And the fact that Purdue helped you out halfway should take a load of pressure off you. But still, I go back to what I said. If you just handled business yourself, you wouldn't be having to rely on other teams to take care of it for you. So that being said, yes, you got a gift from Purdue. Don't squander it. Now you have, the ball, the momentum is on your side, really, essentially from that standpoint. Now, as for the game itself, more than likely, Blake Corum is going to miss this one. His presence will be missed on the offensive side of things, but you still have Hassan Haskins. You still have Donovan Edwards. You still have a plethora of options to do and to go to in terms of making your offense, making your run game work. I know Andrell Anthony being hurt is awful timing, but you make what you can do, and you need to have that next man up mentality, both in terms of injuries to your receivers and injuries to your running backs. I expect the defense to do well again because, frankly, from what we've seen, Penn State has not been this prolific, high-powered offense. Let's not forget the whole 9 overtime debacle against Illinois. They only managed to get 24 points against Ohio State. Granted, they played them close, but that's all. That was the best they could do. And while I understand that they lost their quarterback through the injury against Iowa, they still put up 20 points in the end. So I expect the defense to do its job. I think they'll hold them to within that under 30-point window. It won't be as porous as what we saw against Michigan State. As to what the offense you can do, it is still concerning to see that we're still having plays in the red zone finish with field goals more so often than touchdowns. I think going into last night's game against Indiana, Wolverines had at least 15 or 16 or so occurrences where you're in the red zone, but instead of a touchdown, you get a field goal. That's like one of the most by any team in the entire nation while FBS football. So knowing that and that's still occurring and popping up will have me concerned, not just against this one game against Penn State, but especially against Ohio State, because Ohio State, I feel you have to match them score by score, score for score, whether it's touchdown, field goal, whatever. You have to match them. So if you can't still finish the job in terms of getting into the end zone more drives more often than not, then that's going to be worrisome for your chances at winning, not just against Ohio State, but trying to win this game as well against Penn State. That being said, I could see this playing out similar to what we saw against Wisconsin and Nebraska. There'll be some ugly spots, but I think Michigan will be able to have this in control, pull away late, and get the victory. So my bigger predicted score is going to be Michigan 24, Penn State 10.
All right. 28-10, right?
24-10.
24, thank you. All right. 24-10 says
Actually,
Ed.
correction. Let me revise that. 24-17. Because I think
20.
Penn State's going to play them tough, real tough. So I don't think it's going to be a 2-score victory. I think Michigan will get it done. They'll be by 1 score.
Yep. Their defense will hold off in the end until, although Penn State is really good at home, usually. Frank, your analysis and scoring prediction brought to you by Viget.
Well, my Vegas scoring prediction, I'm definitely leaning to a close, tight defensive game in this one. I mean, as Ed alluded to, Penn State's got a solid defense, especially their secondary. Tariq Castro-Fields is one of the best defensive backs in the Big Ten. He's a ball hawk as well. And look, we know what Michigan's going to bring to the table with guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Brad Hawkins, Daxton Hill. So I'm expecting this to be just a real hard-hitting defensive game. And Penn State, they're not really that great against the run, so I think Michigan's going to continue to make their hay running the football. I mean, but I think they're going to counterpunch with running the ball with Noah Kane as well. Sean Clifford, I think he's going to be looking to get the ball to Jahan Dotson, one of their best receivers. There's, however, a game like this, I just seemingly don't trust James Franklin, their head coach, in a big spot. He's made a lot of reprehensible decisions in big games in the past, and I kind of view this as a big game for both teams. So, that said, I'm going to go Michigan 23, Penn State 20. I think Jake Moody hits a late field goal to win it for Michigan, but I think it's really first team that gets 23 probably wins it. I think it's just going to be a real close, tight defensive game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Frank says 23-20 Michigan. I'm going to go Michigan 24 and Penn State 21.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Michigan will come from behind with a touchdown to win it in the end. So that's college football. Michigan stays at 9th in the AP poll rankings. Now to the pros. Justin Rogers of the Detroit News reported 2 days ago, the past Friday, the Lions have waived wide receiver Tyrell Williams from the injury reserve with an undisclosed injury settlement. He was out with a concussion after playing 39 snaps. So technically, I think that means they reactivated him from the injured reserve, didn't they?
You said taken off injured reserve, so that would mean he's reactivated. I want to say yeah, because remember he's missed the past few games.
Waived him.
Oh, waived.
So
oh, okay.
I'm starting to think that that maybe maybe you realize, we don't have a spot for you currently. Hey, we know you're back from injury, but I think we'll just kind of mutually agree to part ways and wish the best. That's what this seems like to me.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything about reactivation or anything to that sort of thing.
I would have to agree. So Tyrell Williams will have to, search for spots elsewhere in the National Football League. But for the Lions, they have their bye week this week, and they go to Heinz Field next Sunday, the upcoming Sunday at Heinz Field to take on Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Ed, as usual, we start with you, and then we'll go to Frank with the Viget analysis and scoring predictions. Ed, go ahead.
I would expect this game to be. I hope for it to be closer than most people would think it would be, but I just don't trust the Lions secondary to keep it as a close enough game. I know that the front line, the front four, front seven will do its best, but that secondary is just going to give it too many big plays. That is saying something considering the fact that Roethlisberger has just been absolutely dreadful this year. If it wasn't for how bad Jared Goff's been, we would be having a discussion of is Roethlisberger the worst QB in the league this year. So despite all that, knowing that you have the weapons that you do offensively, and I think, like you mentioned, Juju Smith-Schuster, he hasn't been his usual self, but he may be able to do something against this secondary. Knowing all that, I just don't think the Lions, they may give a better effort, hopefully, than what we saw against Philly, because they know and understand that was just bad on top of bad. You can't just come out with that type of effort and get stomped out like that at home, which made it even worse. So I think they're going to look to try and put that behind them, give a better effort, but I don't know if they can get this win on this one. I thought there was a chance. Could have gotten something done against Cincy, maybe get something against the Rams, maybe something against Philly, but I just don't see them getting another, being a good position or a chance to win until maybe Thanksgiving against the Bears, and that's still a couple weeks away. So I think I'm going to go with my bigger predicted score. It's going to be Pittsburgh 28, Detroit 14.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that one. Frank, your turn. The Viget analysis and scoring prediction.
Well, here's my Viget analysis and scoring prediction. Excuse me. While I do agree with that Ben Roethlisberger is well past his prime and how he's still playing is beyond me. I think Pittsburgh just has too much, and plus they're going against the worst defense in the NFL and the Lions, and that might be the cure for what ails them. So I think Big Ben will not look like vintage Big Ben, but he's going to look well enough that he can still play. And plus, I believe Juju Smith-Schuster is still hurt for the Steelers, but they still have Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. So I think they're going to make their hay there. And, of course, defensively, Pittsburgh always seems to be very strong on that side of the ball. So I don't think the Lions are going to get too much offensively. So I'm going to go Steelers 31, Lions 10.
All right. I'm going to go Pittsburgh Steelers 31 and the Lions 13. They'll settle for 2 Austin Seibert field goals and a DeAndre Swift touchdown on the running game. And Jared Goff won't throw any touchdown passes. And he won't throw for too many passing yards either because he's Jared Goff. You know what I'm saying? All right. So that's Lions. So the Tigers, switching to Major League Baseball, they have traded prospect third baseman Nick Quintana to the Cincinnati Reds for catcher Tucker Bardnhardt. Now, before we grade this, his WAR levels were in between 0 and 1, above 0 his last 4 seasons. I know they're not too shabby. They're not negative. None of them are negative, but not too high either. So we'll start with Ed, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, what is your grade on the Tigers trading Nick Quintana to the Cincinnati Reds for Tucker Bardnhardt?
I think I'm going to give this one a B. My reasons for this, frankly, it will help make sense in terms of money being amount. While you're spending some money, not spending too much, You might want to save up to go somewhere, go after another spot, another position. But you wanted to make sure that you at least got something for yourself for this team as a form of upgrade or keeping consistency with one of your positions. Even though they already have guys like Eric Haas and Jake Rogers at that catcher spot, I think this is probably a potential, either platoon rotation that they're going to be thinking of doing, or in the case of emergency, of where you need one available if the other can't go. So that type of effect, you can plug them in there. But as in terms of making improvements, upgrades, additions to your team, I don't mind, and I think it has a potential to be more boom than it is bust. So by that, I'll give it a solid B.
All right. Solid mid-range B, says Ed. Frank, what is your grade on Tucker Bardnhardt?
I'm going to go ahead and say this is a B move for the Tigers. You mentioned Barnhart. His WAR is definitely on the positive side, which I know is pleasing to us and also pleasing to Jeff Moss as well. So, I think he's probably going to be somebody who will get the backup catcher spot, probably ahead of Eric Haas, but I think this means
Jake Rogers?
And he'll definitely be behind Jake Rogers, but I think he's definitely a better option than Grayson Griner. Thank God. So, solid move. It's not really eye-popping. I know he has won a couple of gold gloves, so I think he's probably the best in terms of defense. So, this will be a B move for me.
All right. So, both Ed and Frank say mid-range B, and so will I, a mid-range B for the Tucker Bardnhardt trade. That's our What's Your Grade segment for Major League Baseball and the Detroit Tigers. Now the Red Wings, Moritz Seider named
If you don't
NHL.
mind, quick question or quick comment, real briefly in regards to the Tigers. Maybe this will make a ripple.
Yeah,
Maybe it won't in the future. But in case you wanted to know or bring it up now instead of waiting or forgetting to do it later, there was news from Houston of the Astros offering qualifying or extending qualifying offers to both Justin Verlander and Carlos Correa. I think both of them, it was a 1-year option for about 18 mil. So they have until the 17th to either accept it or reject it. And knowing what we can or what can only guess of how much they would want in terms of what market value and whatnot and years and all that stuff, you'll be interested to see how their decisions to that, each one or both, will reflect about what the Tigers can and would be able to do in their free agency plans. So, a little bit of noteworthy news to possibly pay attention to here.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to keep our eyes on both Verlander and Carlos Correa. So there's a possibility that at least one, maybe both, may come to Detroit. So, and from what I'm hearing on Twitter with Marlo Moss and Tepid Butter and other people on Twitter, that AJ Hinch is pulling the strings of general manager Al Avila, and AJ Hinch is like the de facto general manager and manager of the Detroit Tigers. So
it wouldn't surprise me, especially if we get one of his boys from Houston in the off season. So
darn right.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
How poetic would that be? Frank, your thoughts on that?
Well, I have to agree in terms of AJ Hinch kind of pulling the strings for Al Avila. I think that's just common sense prevailing because Hinch at least knows what the hell he's doing, whereas Avila has not shown that. So pull all the strings you want, AJ, and hopefully it does result in either Verlander or Correa, or maybe both possibly signing in Detroit. Not saying, but then again, maybe I am.
All right. So that's Major League Baseball. Now to the Red Wings. Moritz Seider named NHL Rookie of the Month in October. 8 points in 9 games in October. And then this past Saturday night, he scored the game-winning goal in Buffalo in a 4-3 win over the Sabres at KeyBank Arena, which was last night his first NHL goal. And of course, Pius Suter a goal tonight, Tyler Bertuzzi, Vladimir Sladnemestikov, a sharp angle goal. The Red Wings beating the Sabres and Vegas Golden Knights. Sabres on the road, Golden Knights at home earlier tonight. The Red Wings 6-5-2 with 14 points, but they're one spot away from the second Eastern Conference wildcard spot behind the Washington Capitals, who are 5-2-4, and the Columbus Blue Jackets 7-3-0, holding that first wildcard spot. Both the Blue Jackets and Capitals in the Metropolitan Division. I know the Capitals should be in the Atlantic, and the Blue Jackets and Red Wings should be in the Metropolitan Division. But anyway, it seems as Alex Tanguay is pulling Jeff Blashill's strings. Tanguay knows how to work that power play. The Red Wings scored two power play goals in the first period. I saw it. That's just fantastic.
That sounds like ages since we last been able to see that or see that. Multiple power play goals scored in a single period.
Oh, man. Now, granted, Alex Tanguay has never had any head coaching experience in the AHL or the NHL, but he's a genius on the power play, especially.
He's a former player. I think that's his insight and experience of working that unit would be beneficial to what he brings as a coach. And it's all you can see. It's already paying dividends.
Oh, yeah, there is. Frank, what are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely have to agree that the offense is looking better with Alex Tanguay, especially around the power play. But also, I think we have to give some mention to Lucas Raymond, and he continues to stuff the stat sheet as well. He scored a goal tonight. He had a 3-point night last night as well. Oh, we mentioned Sider getting Rookie of the Month, but I think we're going to see Lucas Raymond possibly get one of those honors. And I think dream scenario at this point, have them both as a finalist for the Calder Trophy. And I think, like I said, top of the show, the Yzer plan is slowly starting to bear some fruit. It's getting there, guys. Just need some more time.
See, if this was Ken Holland, he would, both these guys would still be in Grand Rapids right now, because they're not old enough in Kenny Boy's mind. It needs to be a man's league, not no room for no 20-year-olds. 20-year-old isn't man enough for me. Kids ain't the answer. I want men.
That's Ken Holland for you. So, the Pistons, they're 1-8, but Cade Cunningham has statistically heated up. 6 points against the Milwaukee Bucks, and then 18 points and 10 rebounds, a double-double against the Milwaukee Bucks.
And then the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, yeah, 6 points against the Milwaukee Bucks, 18 points and 10 rebounds against the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay. Well, that's kind of expected when you don't have Ben Simmons guarding you, but still, very nice.
Yep, 17 points as well against the Brooklyn Nets as well. So, Cade Cunningham starting to feel it. Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say I think it was just a matter of time of Cade, getting experience, shaking off that rust, getting adjusted to not just his surroundings, but everything around him and all that. I think we'll see his efficiency produce better in terms of his offense with his shot selection and everything. But you can see what he possesses on not just with his ball handling ability, but also his defense as well. He's already averaging half a steal, which doesn't surprise me. He's been quite efficient already at the free throw line, which, again, small sample size, but when you can do 93% in terms of foul shots in just 4 games of work, to me, that tells you you're off to a pretty good start. Again, I think his shooting stroke will get there. It will take some time. It'll take, repetition and whatnot, but I think what we saw against Brooklyn could be a sign of things to come. And I think him getting more adjusted to playing with his teammates, minutes, lineups, rotations with certain guys, getting chance for all that to gel and mature over time. will be beneficial to his development, not just for this season, but the years to come. So that's the one aspect I'm looking forward to seeing for this year for the Pistons. Yes, how many games can they win more compared to last year? But I want to see the players that they drafted show signs that they're on the up and up. Guys like Kay, guys like Garza, guys like Livers and whatnot. Sadiq Bey and Killian Hayes as well. You want to see their development continue to grow and process. So that is my main goal of what I want to see out of the Pistons this year: the development of their players in regards, as opposed to their development as a team record wise.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that one. And then Troy Weaver is going to have more work cut out for them the upcoming off season, of course, in the summertime.
True, but when you have about $58 million of free money, you can do something with that.
Yeah, $50 million. Yeah, use it wisely though. So, Frank, follow up.
Well, I have to say it's very nice to see Cade break out of whatever funk he was in and start scoring in double figures, also getting his first career double-double. I mean, really what I'm looking for out of the Pistons, just the young guys keep getting better, and not just Cade. Killian Hayes, let him develop as well. Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and if Luka Garza and Isaiah Livers get the opportunity, hope they can make the most of it. And I mean, I'm not expecting playoff contention this year. Just let the guys get better. Keep showing that you're going on down the road, and hopefully Cade continues to be Cade out there.
All right. So that's Pistons. Still 1-8. And that's all the teams that we have covered. We have covered every single team in our state. So let's recap let's go over what we've learned about what we've discussed. What I've learned, the Michigan State Spartans football team needs to fire their secondary defense coach at some point because their secondary defense keeps laying off on the job every game, even in an 8-1 season. Yesterday showed it in West Lafayette, and they finally lost a game as a result against Purdue. Also, the Red Wings, like I said before, need to get rid of Mark Stahl because he can't play defense well at all on the ice. But, of course, the rookies, Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, they're shining. Dylan Larkin, welcome back, but he's got a lot of work to do as well. But glad to see Cade Cunningham. Glad to see Cade Cunningham be on the rise and improve statistically. Tigers, I think they're only getting started. They still have more work to do. But the Lions, of course, they still have a possibility of going 0-17. They'll probably lose to the Steelers. Urinating tree Steelers. Ed, you're next, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, what did you learn?
If I could say I learned anything from this week, I'll just keep it relatively simple in regards to one of the sports that we covered tonight, is that in terms of college football, no matter what or who you are, it is possible to have your season still resume, still be able to progress even after one game. What I mean by that, Michigan last week, people thought Michigan's season was done, dead in the water because of that loss to Michigan State. Whereas if you only look at how far they dropped, quote unquote, in the polls, and knowing that what else happened in front of them and around them, and knowing that they still, relatively speaking, have their goals. I know it's a tired phrase, but their goals are still ahead of them. You can see that, okay, maybe the sky is not falling after all. Conversely with Michigan State, yes, you got the biggest high of highs when you got that victory against Michigan last week. You did so much. You got so high that you started burning and destroying couches and furniture and flipping cars and shit. But that shows to show you, listen, you can't stop to smell the roses now because what? There's still games to be played. The season's still yet to go on here. And if they didn't get the message, they sure as hell got that reality check against Purdue. And if they haven't gotten the message yet, they may get another one against Ohio State. You don't know. So you got to keep the eyes on the prize here. Still focus on what you have to get done, and because if you don't, you're going to be one of those teams on the outside looking in, watching someone else from your division go to Indy and saying, "Damn, if only we had handled our business against Purdue. Damn, if only we had handled our business against Ohio State or Penn State or whoever, instead of being so translucent after our win against Michigan. If only we had done that." So they could be kicking themselves here just because they may have been too much drinking on the victory champagne of their biggest win last week. So in college football, it is sometimes okay to still have your season continue even after one game in the middle of the year, as we saw from both Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah, they got Penn State and Ohio State and then Maryland. So, Frank, what did you learn?
Well, there's one thing that I've learned this week. It's the reason why I love Mel Tucker as Michigan State's head coach. Because after a loss to Purdue, he didn't go and make excuses about officials or any other things that didn't go their way. He said, no, this is on us. We played poorly. We deserve to lose. But at the same time, we're not going to dwell on it. We're going to learn from what we did wrong, and we're going to get back on the right track. Heck, Maryland's up next. That's who we're on to. I think a lot of coaches need to take note of that. Doesn't matter what level. I know a lot of high school coaches believe the same thing too. This point in the year, November is for contenders, and even if you do trip up, you fall off the horse, you get back on. We're going to see what they can do come Saturday when they host Maryland.
All right. Maryland, Ohio State, and then Penn State for Michigan State. Yeah, Mel Tucker is showing way more of not blaming the officials than Jim Harbaugh is showing blaming the officials as he usually does. So that's what we've learned. And before we go, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is sponsored by the VIG It Sports mobile app where great fans cover. Use the hashtag #GreatFansCover to support the mobile app. Download it on your smartphone from the Apple App Store or Google Play. Sign up and type in the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle as in billionaire. That's STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle as in billionaire. Also, a shout out to Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to one of their featured events. That's CaliTickets.com or 877-225-8425. Gentlemen, excellent job as always. We'll talk again next Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, for Ed and Frank, I'm Taylor Phillips signing off. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter and Instagram at EdSmith313. And follow Frank Vasner on Twitter and Instagram at Frank_Vasner, VHACNER. And follow the show, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like it on Facebook as the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast and follow it on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for listening, watching, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power to the people, hit on the highway, rest your case, stay out of trouble.